Welcome to the channel, everybody. I am glad that you found me. The Sony A7II was a legendary camera when it came out in November of 2014. But after 8 years, is this camera still relevant in 2022? And even more importantly, is this the best walk-around camera with a vintage Carl Zeiss Contax Yashica 50mm lens mounted on the front of it? Stick with me to hear about my experience with this camera and lens. Alright, let's start off by talking about the camera. The A7II was released in November of 2014. At the time, it was a revolution in the camera industry. It was so revolutionary that 8 years later, Sony is still selling this new as of the time I am making this video. This full frame camera has a 24 megapixel sensor which takes amazing images. It shoots high definition video up to 60 frames per second. It also has image stabilization built into the camera, and since it's mirrorless, you can use adapters to attach all of your vintage lenses to this camera and shoot images with them as well. These were all great specs in 2014, and they're still good specs today in 2022. Now let's talk about that lens. The Carl Zeiss Contax Yashica 50 1.4mm lens is multi-coated and has that Zeiss micro contrast look to it. This vintage lens is really nice because it's lightweight and it's not very big. This makes it great for carrying around and being able to take it almost anywhere. Given that this is a normal focal length lens, you can use it for a variety of things. Everything from cityscapes, landscapes, to portraits. So this makes for a great lens to walk around with and shoot a lot of different types of photography. There were a lot of these lenses made, and a lot of them still exist, and for that reason, these can be had for a very reasonable price as well. This makes them affordable, which is also a bonus. Now let's talk about the image quality. Even though this camera is almost 8 years old, it still produces amazing results with that 24 megapixel sensor. And even though the Carl Zeiss lens is over 30 years old, it still produces sharp, shallow depth of field images and has a great range of things that you can use it for. In this portrait, notice the super shallow depth of field. This was shot in super low light and at ISO 6400. This camera does great with high ISO, produces low noise, and does great for low light situations. The built-in image stabilization works even with your vintage lenses. This was the first in 2014 and still makes this a great camera for low light walking around photography. These next two images are architectural images. They show how well this camera and lens does with black and white urban city landscapes. Notice the great Carl Zeiss micro contrast and the really good gradation in the grays. This is due to the amazing sensor that Sony put in the A7II and the quality of the glass in the Carl Zeiss lens. Given that this is an 8-year-old camera, there are some things to point out and consider before purchasing this camera. The first is the fact that while this camera does do high definition video up to 60 frames per second, it does not do 4K and it doesn't go up to 120 frames per second in high definition. Someone that's looking for a camera that will be video centric that does 4K should probably take a pass on this camera. The second thing to consider before you purchase this camera is that over the last 8 years, cameras have just gotten a little bit better in kind of everywhere. A little bit better with noise, a little bit better at handling high ISO, a little bit better with color, a little bit better with video, etc. Well, that doesn't make the A7 II a bad camera. It just means that their technology has moved on. If you're the type of person that wants the latest, greatest, and absolute best at the time of purchase, the A7 II might not be the best camera for you. The third thing to consider before you purchase this camera is about the vintage 50mm lens. I know that's kind of shocking, but stick with me here. So vintage lenses are manual focusing. So if you're really out for autofocus, then before you purchase the Sony A7 II camera, you should really consider getting the camera with the kit lens, because the kit lens that comes with the camera has autofocus. This will help you in the fact that you won't have to manually focus your lenses. All right, so we just got done talking about all these cons, so let's talk about the price, because this is where this camera and lens combination really shines, just like the image quality. So at the time of doing this video, you can get this camera new for less than $1,000 US. And that for a full frame camera is a great price. For something that has all of the functions and features of this camera, it is an amazing price. And if you catch this camera on sale, there's still enough left over that $1,000 gets you this camera and the vintage Carl Zeiss 50 1.4 lens. That is a lot of camera and lens for your money. Now, you can also get this camera with the kit lens for less than $1,000 as well. Either way you go with this is a great combination of value for what you're spending versus what you're getting. If you're enjoying this content, don't forget to hit the thumbs up below. It really helps me out. And if you want to see more of this type of content, hit the subscribe button. Overall, I think the Sony A7 II is a great camera and a great value for the price in 2022. This camera and the Carl Zeiss 50 1.4 is still the camera that I grab when I'm going out exploring. It gives me a lot of versatility, it's lightweight, I can carry it all day long, and it's small enough that it does not draw a lot of attention. Therefore, this is a great camera lens opportunity for the price. Well, I really hope that you found this helpful and that you got some of the information that you needed. I really think that the Sony A7 II with its 24 megapixel sensor and the high definition video, the great image quality combined with the Carl Zeiss 50 is a great combination for a carry around lens in 2022. Thank you for watching, and until next time, enjoy your photography journey.